This battered black and white Dodge Monaco wasn't just a prop, it was powered by Cold War paranoia, survived impossible stunts at 118 mph, and one even fell from over a mile high. From secret electrical substations to a stunt driver's $2,000 payday and Dan Aykroyd's 3-year dating mobile, the Bluesmobile's behind-the-scenes story is wilder than any chase scene. Here are 15 weird facts you didn't know about the Blues Brothers Dodge Monaco police car. Fact 1. The speaker was actually a nuclear war siren. If you've ever watched the Blues Brothers, you've probably noticed the massive horn-shaped loudspeaker mounted on top of the Bluesmobile. But what you might not know is that this iconic prop has a surprising Cold War origin story. The loudspeaker wasn't just a random piece of equipment dreamed up by the production design team. It was actually a carefully chosen replica of a real air raid siren that Dan Aykroyd remembered from his childhood in Ottawa, Canada. The specific model was called the CLM Model 92729 DP, and it was manufactured by a Canadian company called Canadian Line Materials during the height of Cold War tensions. These massive dual-horned sirens were installed across Canada throughout the 1950s and 60s, positioned in schoolyards, government buildings, and public spaces with one terrifying purpose: to warn Canadian citizens and military personnel about incoming Soviet nuclear attacks that might be detected by NORAD. The siren that inspired Aykroyd sat right outside his elementary school, Our Lady of Annunciation in Ottawa, and clearly left a lasting impression on the young future comedian. When it came time to design the Bluesmobile for the film, Aykroyd specifically requested that the production team find or create an exact replica of that same CLM model to serve as the brothers' public address system. The attention to this detail shows just how personal the film was for Aykroyd, who filled the movie with references to his Canadian upbringing and his fascination with law enforcement equipment. What audiences see as a quirky movie prop was actually a piece of genuine Cold War civil defense infrastructure, transformed from a symbol of nuclear anxiety into a tool for spreading the Blues Brothers' musical message across Chicago. Fact 2. The license plate honors a biker gang. Most movie fans assume that license plates in films are just random combinations of letters and numbers chosen by the props department. But the Bluesmobile's Illinois plate reading BDR 529 was actually a deliberate tribute with deep personal meaning for Dan Aykroyd. The letters and numbers weren't arbitrary at all. They stood for the Black Diamond Riders, a real motorcycle club based in Toronto, Canada, and Aykroyd himself was a longtime member of this group. The Black Diamond Riders had their clubhouse located at 529 Jarvis Street in Toronto, which is where the specific number on the license plate came from. This wasn't just a casual reference that Aykroyd threw in as an afterthought. It was one of several deeply personal touches he worked into the film's details, reflecting his genuine connections to motorcycle culture and his roots in Canada. Aykroyd has always been known as both a car and motorcycle enthusiast, and his membership in the Black Diamond Riders was an important part of his life outside of his acting and comedy career. The license plate detail is just one example of how Aykroyd embedded autobiographical elements throughout the Blues Brothers, turning what could have been a simple comedy into something that reflected his actual interests and experiences. In the same spirit, Elwood's driver's license that appears briefly on a police information screen in the film contains Aykroyd's real birth date of July 1st, 1952. These small but meaningful details show how much creative control Aykroyd had over the film and how he used it to honor the communities and organizations that mattered to him, transforming a prop license plate into a tribute that only those familiar with Toronto's motorcycle scene would fully understand. Fact 3. California cops became Illinois cops. The entire fleet of Bluesmobiles used in the film started their lives as actual working police cars on the West Coast, thousands of miles away from Chicago, where the movie takes place. All 13 1974 Dodge Monaco sedans that portrayed the iconic Bluesmobile were purchased from the California Highway Patrol after they had been retired from active duty, and the production team then had to transform them into what appeared to be decommissioned Mount Prospect, Illinois police vehicles for the story. What could have been a major headache for the props and paint departments turned out to be remarkably simple, thanks to a fortunate coincidence in police vehicle design. Both the California Highway Patrol and the Mount Prospect Police Department used virtually identical black and white paint schemes on their patrol cars during that era, which meant the production team didn't have to completely strip and repaint the vehicles from scratch. Instead, they primarily needed to change out the decals, markings, and department identifications to make California cop cars look like Illinois cop cars, a conversion that saved both time and money during a production that was already running over budget. The choice to use retired California Highway Patrol vehicles wasn't just about convenience. These cars came equipped with a heavy-duty police package that included reinforced suspensions, upgraded braking systems, and more powerful engines, exactly the kind of features needed to survive the intense stunt work and high-speed chase scenes that director John Landis had planned. Each of the 13 cars was then specially modified for different purposes, with some rigged for speed, others prepared for jumps, and one famously engineered to fall apart on command. But they all began their Hollywood careers as real working police cruisers patrolling California's highways. Fact 4. One car was rigged for months just to fall apart. One of the most memorable moments in the Blues Brothers comes at the very end of the final chase scene, when Jake and Elwood finally arrive in the Cook County building to pay the orphanage's tax bill, and their trusty Bluesmobile suddenly falls to pieces on the sidewalk, leaving nothing but a bare frame. What looks like a simple visual gag on screen was actually the result of months of painstaking engineering work by a dedicated mechanic who had to figure out how to make a car disintegrate on command. According to First Assistant Director David Sosna, a single mechanic spent several months rigging this particular Bluesmobile so that it could fall apart with the pull of a lever or the flip of a switch. And the complexity of the engineering made it one of the most expensive single-use gags in the entire production. The mechanic had to carefully weaken or modify every connection point on the vehicle's body panels, doors, hood, trunk, and other components so they would all collapse in a coordinated sequence that looked natural and comedic rather than mechanical or staged. The really remarkable thing about this particular car is that it was built for exactly one shot in the movie and could never be used again after that moment was filmed. Once those body panels fell off and scattered across the pavement, that Bluesmobile was done, which made it an incredibly expensive way to get a single laugh from the audience. Sosna later commented that that is a very expensive gag, acknowledging just how much time, effort, and money went into creating a vehicle that would only appear on screen for a few seconds before being rendered completely unusable. Fact 5. They really drove 118 mph. Through Chicago, during the climactic chase scene in The Blues Brothers, there's a brief shot of the Bluesmobile's speedometer hitting 118 miles per hour as it races beneath Chicago's elevated train tracks, and director John Landis has confirmed that this wasn't movie magic or a sped-up film trick. The stunt drivers actually drove at that dangerous speed through the real streets of downtown Chicago. The production team had gotten special permission from the city to shut down Lake Street and drive at speeds exceeding 100 miles per hour between the support pillars of the elevated train system, which created one of the most genuinely thrilling sequences in the film. However, Landis ran into an unexpected problem after filming the high-speed run. When he watched the footage back, he realized that even though the cars really were traveling at 118 miles per hour, the scene actually looked fake on screen, as if he had simply cranked up the film speed in post-production to make normal driving appear faster. This created a frustrating situation where the authentic stunt looked less believable than a cheap special effect would have. So Landis made the decision to reshoot the entire sequence. For the second attempt, he added stunt pedestrians walking along the sidewalks during the chase, which provided a crucial point of reference for viewers. With people moving at normal walking speed visible in the frame, audiences could clearly see that the cars really were flying past at incredible velocity rather than moving at regular speeds with artificially accelerated film. The presence of these pedestrians transformed the scene from something that looked suspiciously fake into a sequence that properly conveyed just how fast and dangerous the actual stunt driving really was. Fact 6. Aykroyd used one as his personal dating mobile. After filming Wrapped on the Blues Brothers, Dan Aykroyd decided to keep one of the police cars used in the production, but instead of storing it away as a souvenir or display piece, he actually used it as his daily driver in one of the most audacious ways imaginable. Aykroyd drove this fully marked Illinois State Police car around the streets of Manhattan for 3 years, complete with all the official markings, light bars, and sirens still intact. And somehow, he was never once pulled over or questioned by the New York Police Department about why he was driving what appeared to be an out-of-state police vehicle. The actor later explained his theory about why he got away with this for so long, suggesting that New York City residents and police officers simply assumed he was a legitimate law enforcement officer from Illinois who was in town serving a warrant or transporting a prisoner from another state. In a city as busy and chaotic as Manhattan, the sight of an unfamiliar police car apparently didn't raise any red flags, and Aykroyd was able to cruise around in his movie prop without any legal consequences whatsoever. What makes this story even more interesting is that Aykroyd openly admitted he used the car to pick up dates during this period, taking full advantage of the novelty and conversation-starting power of arriving in a police cruiser. He later claimed that the women he dated during those years were cool enough that he could have picked them up in anything, and they would have been fine with it, but the Illinois State Police car certainly added a memorable twist to his romantic life in New York. Eventually, Aykroyd sold the vehicle, and it reportedly ended up at a racetrack somewhere. Fact 7. A $2,000 bribe created Landis's favorite stunt. One of the most impressive moments in the Blues Brothers happens during the lower Whacker Drive chase sequence, when the Bluesmobile races up an exit ramp at Monroe Street and launches itself over a parked police car, and what audiences see on screen only exists because John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd were willing to put their own money on the line. Director John Landis had a specific vision for this stunt. He wanted the Bluesmobile to not just clear the police car, but to actually clip the Mars lights on top of the vehicle as it sailed overhead, creating a shower of sparks and broken plastic that would make the jump even more spectacular. When Landis presented this idea to the stunt driver who would be performing the jump, he received some disappointing news. The driver told him that he could guarantee clearing the police car completely, but he couldn't promise that he would be able to hit the lights with the precision that Landis wanted, since that level of accuracy during a high-speed jump would be extremely difficult to achieve. This put the director in a tough position, as he really wanted that specific visual, but couldn't force the stunt driver to attempt something he wasn't confident about. That's when Belushi and Aykroyd stepped in with their own solution to the problem. Each of them offered the stunt driver $1,000 out of their own pockets if he could successfully execute the jump exactly as Landis had envisioned it, bringing the total incentive to $2,000 for nailing the shot. The financial motivation apparently did the trick, because the stunt driver managed to clip the Mars lights perfectly during filming, earning himself an extra $2,000 and giving Landis what he later described as his favorite stunt in the entire movie. Fact 8. The car had supernatural powers explained, then cut. Throughout the Blues Brothers, the Bluesmobile performed seemingly impossible stunts like jumping over drawbridges, executing perfect backflips in midair, and even appearing to fly for brief moments. And viewers might assume these feats are simply meant to be comedic exaggerations that don't require any explanation. However, Dan Aykroyd's original script actually included a specific scene that would have provided a logical reason for why the car could do things that normal vehicles couldn't, giving the Bluesmobile's abilities a pseudo-scientific backstory rather than leaving them as pure movie magic. In the deleted scene, Elwood is shown parking the Bluesmobile underneath Chicago's elevated train tracks near an electrical substation that powered the city's transit system, and the car would somehow absorb electrical energy from this transformer, which would then allow it to perform all the incredible jumps and flips seen throughout the film. Aykroyd later explained in a documentary about the making of the movie that this scene was intended to show the Bluesmobile literally getting power from the substation, providing audiences with at least some kind of explanation for its superhuman capabilities. Director John Landis actually filmed this scene as Aykroyd had written it, but ultimately decided to cut it from the theatrical release because he felt that the car's powers didn't need any explanation at all. According to Landis, it was simply a magic car, and the brothers were on a mission from God, so audiences should just accept that extraordinary things were going to happen without requiring scientific justification. You can still see evidence of this cutscene if you look carefully at the film's poster, which shows a power station visible in the background, a remnant of the explanation that never made it into the final cut. Fact 9. 3 cars had 1-gallon gas tanks. The production team behind the Blues Brothers had to think carefully about safety when planning the numerous jump stunts that would be performed throughout the film, and one of their solutions was to modify 3 of the 13 Bluesmobiles with drastically reduced fuel capacity. According to Assistant Director Jerem Swartz, who oversaw the vehicle fleet, 3 of the cars were specifically outfitted with fuel tanks that held only 1 gallon of gasoline instead of the standard multi-gallon tanks that normally came with a 1974 Dodge Monaco. The reasoning behind this unusual modification was all about minimizing risk during the dangerous aerial stunts that would send these vehicles flying through the air and crashing back down to earth. A full-size gas tank holding 15 or 20 gallons of fuel would create a significant fire hazard if it ruptured during a hard landing or collision, potentially leading to explosions or serious burns for the stunt drivers and nearby crew members. By limiting each of these jump cars to just 1 gallon of fuel, the production team dramatically reduced the amount of flammable liquid on board, making the stunts considerably safer even if something went wrong. However, this safety feature came with an obvious downside that made these particular vehicles essentially useless for any scene that required normal driving. With only 1 gallon of gas in the tank, these modified Bluesmobiles could barely travel any meaningful distance before running out of fuel, which meant they couldn't be used for chase sequences, regular driving shots, or any scene where the car needed to actually function as transportation. They existed solely to be launched off ramps and crashed in spectacular fashion, serving a single specialized purpose in the fleet of vehicles that brought the Bluesmobile to life on screen. Fact 10. A 24-hour body shop kept cars running. The sheer scale of vehicular destruction in the Blues Brothers created a logistical nightmare for the production team, as the film required an enormous fleet of police cars that were constantly being damaged or destroyed during the intense chase sequences and stunt work. To keep filming on schedule despite the continuous carnage, the production established a dedicated auto body shop near Chicago's West Side that operated around the clock, with mechanics working in shifts 24 hours a day to repair damaged vehicles and get them back in front of the cameras as quickly as possible. The production had purchased more than 60 old police cars at $400 each, specifically for the chase scenes. But even with that many vehicles available, the constant crashes and collisions meant that cars were being taken out of commission faster than they could be replaced. This is where the 24-hour body shop became absolutely essential to keeping the production moving forward. The mechanics working in this facility became experts at quickly repairing smashed body panels, replacing broken windshields, fixing damaged suspensions, and performing whatever emergency repairs were needed to make a wrecked car camera-ready again. Director John Landis later explained that there were essentially 20 crash cars that were used over and over again throughout filming, with the mechanics simply changing out the decals and light bars between scenes to make the same vehicles appear as different police departments or units. By the end of production, some of these repeatedly crashed and repaired cars had bodies that were almost entirely made of Bondo, the putty-like filler material used to repair dents and damage in auto body work. The existence of this dedicated repair facility was the only way the production could have possibly completed all the elaborate chase scenes that made the Blues Brothers famous. Fact 11. The cars never called by name. The Bluesmobile has become one of the most iconic vehicles in cinema history, instantly recognizable to movie fans around the world. But if you pay close attention while watching the Blues Brothers, you'll notice something strange. No character in the entire film ever actually identifies the car by its proper model name. Despite the vehicle being a 1974 Dodge Monaco, that specific designation is never spoken aloud by Jake, Elwood, or any of the other characters who interact with or discuss the vehicle throughout the story. The closest anyone comes to properly identifying the car happens during the police chase sequences, when dispatch operators and officers communicate over their two-way radios about the vehicle they're pursuing. In these radio transmissions, the Bluesmobile is referred to simply as a 1974 Dodge sedan, which gives listeners the year and manufacturer but leaves out the Monaco model name entirely. This generic description would have been standard police procedure for identifying a suspect vehicle, but it means that even the law enforcement officers who should know their cars never give audiences the full model designation. The only other on-screen reference to what kind of car the Blues Brothers are driving comes from Illinois State Trooper Mount, one of the officers pursuing Jake and Elwood throughout the film, who dismissively refers to their vehicle as that shitbox Dodge while talking to his partner. This colorful description certainly captures the Bluesmobile's weathered and beat-up appearance, but it still doesn't tell viewers that they're looking at a Monaco. The car's fame and the audience's knowledge of its specific make and model come entirely from behind-the-scenes information, promotional materials, and the credits rather than from anything said in the actual dialogue. Fact 12. Individual wheel brakes for precision stunts. The Bluesmobile's ability to whip around corners, execute perfect spins, and perform seemingly impossible maneuvers during the chase scenes wasn't just the result of skilled driving. It was also due to some serious mechanical modifications that most viewers would never notice. Director John Landis revealed in interviews that the principal Bluesmobile used for the most demanding driving sequences, which was piloted by stunt doubles Tommy Huff and Eddie Dono rather than by Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi themselves, had been outfitted with a highly specialized braking system that gave the drivers unprecedented control over the vehicle's movements. In a normal car, when you press the brake pedal, all four wheels receive braking pressure simultaneously and equally, which is fine for regular driving, but limits the kind of precise control needed for complex stunt work. The modified Bluesmobile, however, had all four wheels equipped with individually controlled brakes, meaning the stunt driver could apply braking force to any single wheel independently of the others, or use different combinations of wheels at different intensities to achieve specific handling characteristics. This level of control allowed the drivers to perform the sharp twists, tight turns, and dramatic spins that became signature moments in the film's chase sequences. The individual wheel brake system essentially gave the stunt drivers the ability to manipulate the car's handling in real time during high-speed driving, letting them initiate controlled slides, tighten their turning radius, or quickly rotate the vehicle's orientation in ways that would be extremely difficult or impossible with a standard braking setup. This technical modification was one of several ways that different Bluesmobiles were specially rigged for specific tasks throughout the production, with each vehicle optimized for particular types of driving or stunt work. Fact 13. The Volo Museum. Car isn't real fans of the Blues Brothers who make the pilgrimage to the Volo Auto Museum in Volo, Illinois, hoping to see an actual piece of movie history, might be disappointed to learn that the Bluesmobile on display there is not one of the original 13 vehicles used during filming. The museum's Bluesmobile is actually a high-quality replica that was built to look like the famous movie car, complete with the oversized loudspeaker on the roof and weathered police markings, but it never appeared in front of the cameras during the 1980 production. The reason the museum has to display a replica rather than an authentic screen-used vehicle is surprisingly straightforward. According to reports from people involved with the production, all 13 of the original Bluesmobiles were either destroyed during the intensive stunt work and chase sequences or were scrapped after filming wrapped. The brutal treatment these cars endured during production, which included high-speed crashes, aerial jumps, and one vehicle specifically engineered to fall apart, meant that very few of them were in any condition to be preserved once director John Landis called the final cut. There have been persistent rumors over the years that Dan Aykroyd received one of the cars from John Landis after filming and later gave it to his brother-in-law, who supposedly repainted it to match the Bluesmobile's appearance. But there's no solid evidence to confirm this story, and the whereabouts of that particular vehicle remain unknown. The Volo Museum's replica does come with one authentic touch, however. The front passenger door bears a real signature from Dan Aykroyd himself, and the museum notes that the car was previously used by Aykroyd to promote his Crystal Head vodka brand before it found its permanent home in the museum's collection. Fact 14. Cop tires and cop shocks don't exist. One of the most quotable moments in the Blues Brothers comes early in the film when Elwood tries to convince his skeptical brother Jake that their new ride is worthy of being called the Bluesmobile, rattling off an impressive list of specifications that includes cop tires, cop suspension, cop shocks, along with the famous 440 cubic inch engine. This description has become so iconic that car enthusiasts and movie fans have repeated it for decades. But the reality is that most of what Elwood claims about these specialized police components is complete fiction created for the screenplay. While it's true that police vehicles in the 1970s did come with heavy-duty equipment packages that included reinforced suspensions, larger engines, and upgraded cooling systems, there's no such thing as tires or shock absorbers that are manufactured specifically for police use. Tire companies did and still do offer high-performance tires to police departments, often at discounted rates or sometimes even for free as a way to build relationships with law enforcement agencies. But these are the same tires that any civilian customer could purchase if they wanted to. They're not special cop tires made exclusively for police cruisers. The same principle applies to shock absorbers and most other components that Elwood mentions in his sales pitch to Jake. Police package vehicles generally used heavy-duty versions of the same parts that were available on civilian models, sometimes with slight modifications to handle the extra weight and stress of constant use, but they weren't fundamentally different components with some special police-only design. The charm of Elwood's description lies in how it sounds both technical and authoritative while being largely made up, perfectly capturing the character's ability to talk his way through any situation with supreme confidence, regardless of whether what he's saying is actually accurate. Said. Fact 15. It set a world record that its sequel beat. When The Blues Brothers was released in 1980, it immediately earned a place in the Guinness Book of World Records for achieving something that no other film had accomplished before, destroying 103 vehicles during production, making it the most destructive movie ever made in terms of automotive carnage. This record stood as a testament to director John Landis's commitment to practical stunts and real car crashes rather than relying on miniatures or special effects, and for nearly 2 decades, no other film came close to matching the level of vehicular destruction that the Blues Brothers had achieved. The record was eventually broken in 1982 by a film called The Junkman, which destroyed 150 cars and even included an airplane in its total count. But that record also fell when the Blues Brothers came back with a vengeance in an unexpected way. In 1998, Universal Pictures released Blues Brothers 2000, a sequel that brought Dan Aykroyd back as Elwood Blues alongside John Goodman, who stepped in to fill the role left vacant by John Belushi's tragic death in 1982. The sequel's producers apparently decided that if they were going to make another Blues Brothers movie, they needed to outdo the original in every possible way, including the amount of destruction. Blues Brothers 2000 deliberately set out to reclaim the world record by destroying 104 vehicles during its production, beating the original film's count by just a single car. In one major crash scene alone, the sequel demolished 63 cars, creating massive pileups that tried to capture the same spirit of automotive chaos that made the first film famous, though critics and audiences generally agreed that the sequel failed to match the original's charm and cultural impact. Despite technically winning the Destruction Derby,